Back in the 70s, let's rock and roll to DJ's control. Let's rock.
I don't remember that.
I know, because that was in the 70s, bro. That's when the wheel was just invented, bro. Come on, now.
Come on.
When you came about, the
ball.
jet was, the jet was rocking and rolling. We were dealing with carts and donkeys and shit. I'm buying apples from an apple cart.
Right. All right.
Orishas, speak through me.
Who?
Orishas.
Who the fuck is Orisha?
Orishas. Santeria.
Oh,
Santeria is prayed to Orishas.
okay.
Oh my God! I gotta bring that to you too.
That's not my religion.
God, I didn't say anything
Not
about
a
being a
Santero.
religion.
All right.
I'm saying it's a cultural thing. I gotta bring that to you. Anyway,
I don't know where you got that
I had got what from?
because my understanding the God is Django.
Django is one of the Orishas.
He's the Orisha in my
Okay, so what's your point?
He's the head.
But what's your point?
The others are just
But what does that have to do with what I just said? Orishas, you speak through me. What's that? What is
Orisha.
that?
I never heard Orishas.
Orishas.
What?
Or as an Oreo. Orishas.
Orishas.
Orishas. Well, maybe but sometimes my speech is like, But the Orishas are the spirits, they're the guides, spiritual guides.
Oh, okay.
And the one that you mentioned was one. I guess he was a top one. I don't know like that, but hey.
All right.
In fact, we had a training. Oh, sorry. We had a training
Right.
where a Santero taught us, the group of us, about Santeria and how to blend in counseling and Santeria, like when people present a spiritual background, how you can speak to the background and make it part of the counseling and make it use it as a strength.
See, Santeria for me is like kind of very voodoo, very
Yeah.
magical, very taboo.
Yeah,
So I can't tap into this new Santeria where it's like
I understand. The new Santeria? What's the new Santeria?
well, now when you go to the botanicas,
Yeah.
they're like, oh, we have herbs and
How's that new?
candles.
How's that new?
Because they're moving away from the true santeros, like the saints with the cigars and the incantations and spells and shit. Because that's what I remember it was.
Okay.
Put a shit on
I-
people's beds.
Yeah, they still do that.
Do they? I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know where you get this new Santeria. I mean,
'Cause-
I want to see an article.
When I walked into a botanica when I was a kid, that shit was spooky as F.
And you're saying now it's not.
Now it's got like
You're
self-help books and help.
But then that's
foods
well, I can't speak to it, but I think as people grow, sometimes you incorporate other things that support it.
right.
So I don't, one of my clients is into the religion, so
No,
She would
I
have
know
to- she'd
people.
have to
I know
speak
people
to
who
me
are still
about that.
into it on the scary side, though.
okay.
So
That's why you keep coming for me because
No, because I take it- I take-
you dropped some kind of you put an apple under that desk and now I can't get rid of my blackity black mode.
now you got hemorrhoids or something.
Now I got hemorrhoids. Now I got hemorrhoids that causes me to be blackity black all the time. I can't change up.
Are you ready to start?
I'm
the
ready.
show?
Come on, let's go. Square.
Welcome to Six Change Therapy. I'm DJ MAYDAY.
And I'm Professor S, your psychotherapist to the stars.
Yes. And today,
So what are we talking about today, sir?
well, not Santeria, but
Oh my goodness.
But we are going to talk about, maybe the spells that one puts on themselves sometimes.
Oh,
Positive and negative,
nice.
like the
The spells we put on ourselves through negative self-talk
negative self-talk, and there's
yeah.
positive self-talk. So
and positive self-talk.
general self-talk is the topic for today.
Right.
So start the framework, just the definition, so we can kind of all get on the same page.
Yes.
Self-talk is the way you talk to yourself or your inner voice. You might not be aware that you're doing it, but you almost certainly are. This inner voice combines conscious thoughts with inbuilt beliefs and biases to create an internal monologue throughout the day. So it's like a combination of conscious and subconscious That's what it sounds like. Conversations you have in your, in your own mind,
Right.
and they can pull from your insecurities, or some of your biases, or some of even your ego, right?
And some of the messages we might have gotten in our families that reinforce some way that you're not good enough or something like that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So, yeah.
I mean, my personal experience with self-talk, I'm just going to throw that out there, is that, like,
Go ahead, brother.
when I was younger, I had a lot more insecurities, right?
Yeah.
So when I was insecure, I can't do that. I don't know enough to do that. I'm not strong enough to do that. I'm not smart enough to do that. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not creative enough to do that. You know what I mean?
Even those years later, that's you're a craftsman in your art.
Right.
Right.
So
that's the irony of it all.
I don't know if that inner talk maybe pushed me or held me back. Right. That can be like a real thing.
But you also converted it.
Yeah.
At some point, it
I
converted.
flipped it, yo. I flipped it.
You flipped it, and what's she say? I'm flipped. Let me work it. Let me flip that and whatever. Anyway, Missy Elliott. Missy Elliott.
Okay.
I don't know. You see how old I am. So what the hell do I know? So, but yeah. So go ahead. No.
So
That's
those
good.
I
Point.
distinctly remember those things as growing up as a kid and being the uncertainty and telling myself that. You know what I mean? Whether it's dealing with a girl, I'm not cool enough, I'm not good looking enough, I'm not this enough, or even sometimes in my somewhat arrogant phases of my youth, I'm too good to be around them, or I'm too,
yeah.
These are things, a lot of people aren't willing to admit to, but I definitely, looking back, I could see that sometimes my ego took over. You know what I mean?
And a lot of times our inner voice is very judgmental. It's very judgmental. It criticizes things that we do. And, one term is what they call cognitive distortions, which means the way that your thinking is distorting what you're looking at, or how you're internalizing it, you're twisting it. So, for example, just as a side, black and white thinking, where something has to be all or nothing. It's like I'm either very good at this thing or I'm very bad, as opposed to the grays in between. And sometimes people live their life like that, and it creates anxiety. Because not everything is black and white.
Definitely not. There's so much gray. And, as you get older, I guess you learn that, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's so much gray. It's not just...
And tolerating the gray,
Yes.
to how you manage it. Yeah.
Yes. And then, good guys aren't always good guys, and bad guys aren't always bad guys.
Right.
And sometimes their motivations may not be in the right place. I mean, life is nuanced, right?
Yeah.
Opinions are nuanced. So, I mean, I guess as you get older, you learn these things, but... definitely back in the day, there was a black and white, right? For me, when it came to dealing with people I loved, I loved you, I didn't love you, right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
I mean, now I've evolved. I can have circles of people.
What are you involved to? What are you involved to?
Well,
this?
Yes, this
All of that?
all this. So, but seriously, like,
I get it.
Like, I have rings of friends. Like, I have friends who are in my inner circle.
Yeah.
People who are not in the inner circle, and so on and so on and so forth. And I think that's healthy, right? So, and it took a while to learn that, you know what I mean? So, like you said, things aren't always black and white.
Well, here's another example, right? Let's just use our experience in the podcast, where in the beginning of the podcast, us putting it together, I criticized the way I looked. Right? The way I looked on camera, and face too shiny, or no hair, where I was dressed. And so there was already a narrative inside my head that says something about you can't really do this project. You're not.
Believe it or not, I had to talk him off a couple.
That's true. A couple of times.
A couple of times. It's like, bro, you look great. People tell me you look great. Women that I know are asking about you. So, like, calm down. So,
And so, just to piggyback on that, anyone that saw the video, no one's criticizing my look. No one's saying anything. If anything, people are saying, wear a brighter shirt, be more, X, Y, and Z. But it wasn't anything to say that my features, or I'm coming across in a negative way, like somehow I don't measure up. So one of the things, I think I gotta look at the notes, but like sometimes it's the way, one of the ways that you challenge your thought distortion, right, is so for example, I'm not, so the distortion could be, I'm not good I'm not good enough to do a podcast. So that might be the internal, right? But then the other side, which one of the things I looked at was your lawyer. Your lawyer will say, well, where is the evidence? Right?
Right.
So the judge you're bringing the evidence to the judge. So what is the evidence that I have that says I'm not good at doing the podcast? There's no
proof.
evidence.
No proof.
There's no
There's
proof.
no history, no proof.
Exactly.
No.
And what information there came is positive. So that's part of how you work through or work on a thought distortion. What is the evidence for the thing that you're talking about?
Right. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's quite a thought distortion, but in doing creative stuff, it's always subjective. A lot of the things that I'm into, I like to do is subjective. Like someone might say, that's fucking terrible. Or they might say, that's phenomenal, amazing, the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Right.
So what's going to be my motivation? Trying to please one or the other? Or is it going to be, is the joy in the work? And I think as I got older, it was the joy in the work. It's finishing the work. It's the process. And I know now, after years of making mistakes, that you have to make mistakes. You have to grow. You have to do a couple of bad podcasts. We've done that. You know what I mean? To make a few good ones. And I think that's the process. And then you get to that place where you're better than you thought
you're better than you thought you are. So yeah, that's kind of acknowledging those positive experiences. Like for example, if you like another thing would be overgeneralization, like where you had this one negative experience, and then you think because of that negative experience, like let's say this podcast, maybe we didn't do a great podcast, so one response could have been, let's not do these podcasts anymore because of this one experience that one has, as opposed to, okay, that happened once, but does that mean that we can't continue to do? You used to do that in the beginning. You used to say, "Oh, I'm sorry, we didn't do this and we didn't do that." Remember?
Right.
And I would say, "Look, this is a growing pains. We don't know. This is just
we're learning.
We're learning how to do it." So over time, we both kind of learned to get to a place where we are right now, where at least we're doing this on a pretty regular basis. And we come prepared.
We learn.
And so it changes one's thoughts about what we're doing.
Can I ask you a question?
Of course.
Like, so if negative self-talk can kind of hinder you from getting to your goals, let's say, or your relationships or whatever it is. Can you, people say, what do you call it? Affirmations,
positive statements.
Yeah, positive statements. Can you literally trick your mind into doing something?
Oh yeah.
Is that a thing? Is that a thing? Like I could tell myself, I'm great at this, and then eventually, will I get great at this? Like,
I believe that is definitely true. It's almost like another form of meditation, right? Where you can calm yourself down, bring yourself down, and listen to the message, because it's really working your brain. It's like rewiring your brain. And though in the beginning, some people might say, well, I'm a great person. Well, I'm not a great person. But the idea is to just sit with it. Like one of the, when you look at some of the things on YouTube, they'll say, listen to this for 21 days.
Right.
And it will change how you feel. So you have to do it on a regular basis. And it does change one's frequency. In fact, I was a very consistent person with affirmations and going to sleep with stuff in my ear, stuff in my ears.
Like wax?
Hey, there's always wax buildup
Hair?
up in here.
All right.
And so it did make a difference. So one of the things I was picking up in doing the research, I'm like, it made me look at what are my thought distortions and what are the things that worked for me in the past, like affirmations, that I need to do more of that. Because things are different, like working from home versus working on the outside. Things are very different, and it can distort your thinking about things, yourself, or, what am I doing this for, questioning. Yeah. So,
like sometimes too, again, I do this research with you. We do these podcasts together. I'm always looking to try to get better and be better and whatever. And a lot of things that is catching yourself, right?
Absolutely.
You'll start talking down about yourself, and you don't even realize it, and you're going down the toilet about yourself.
Right.
Like, you didn't even realize how far you're going, and then you
Exactly.
when do you stop yourself? Like, when do you catch yourself? Like, how do you catch yourself? Like, and I've gotten a little better at that personally, because I'll be like, oh my god, I suck at work, or I suck here, and oh my god,
Oh yeah, I kind of do that too.
I try not to let it get that far.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
I think when one is used to doing that, like not everybody's as it's a range of how much people kind of get into that negative self-talk. But sometimes if you're used to talking to yourself negative, or those early experiences in your family, friends, traumas even, they can inform how you feel about yourself.
yeah.
And so sometimes it's through self-help books, it's therapy. And there's actually a specific kind of therapy called cognitive behavioral therapy, or they call CBT. And that's a very specialized kind of counseling, where you look at the pattern of how your thinking is affecting your behavior, and how your behavior is affecting your thinking. And so you go through a whole bunch of steps to look at that. And some of the themes are some of the things I mentioned, like the black and white thinking. Another one is called mind reading. When we think we know what somebody is thinking about us,
and we assume,
that they're it's like in going back to my looks, but I'm not trying to be self-absorbed. But no, because I questioned how I looked growing up, and so sometimes when I was younger, that if somebody looked at me, it's almost as if, what are they looking at me for? And never really entertained, what if somebody thought you were interesting looking? What if somebody thought you reminded them of their cousin that they really like? Or
right, we're thinking the worst scenario.
The worst scenario, exactly.
And they might be looking at us because they admire something.
Way. Right.
I mean, I've definitely done that, where I'm like, oh, this mug does not like me, or and then I get to the point where then I start not liking you for no good reason.
Right, and that's what happen.
And then it becomes a thing. Now it's confrontational, and who's to say that I actually didn't start that? I have no proof to prove otherwise.
Right, where's the evidence of that?
Right, so you could wind yourself up into a very negative situation.
Yes,
if you start assuming you can read people's minds and thoughts and how they look at you. To be honest with you, I mean, even if you do this exercise yourself, like, how often are you thinking about someone else?
What do you mean?
In the sense of
how they think about you,
or fellow students. Like, how often after you had your little engagement with them, how often after that are you thinking about them? You're not. Most people aren't. So that's something you might want to assume, that they're not even thinking about you. They're not going home as they're going to sleep thinking about you.
You're filling up their thought process.
Right. So why should you fill up yours with theirs? And
go ahead.
And imaginary at that.
Yeah. No, I had an experience like that on a job, and this one coworker complained that their office was next to mine, and and I'm kind of loud, so when I was at this particular agency, I get very animated and stuff.
That's color people
and
stuff.
So it's what
color people stuff. We
what
talk loud, bro. That's what we
so at some point my director placed me in the office in like the basement.
He's like, you could be loud down there.
I mean, there was other staff there, but the main reason is that they had new staff coming on board, and I was only there one time a week, and these other folks were full-time people, so they needed the office space.
So did you interpret that as like, oh damn, maybe because I talked too loud, maybe because I was this?
Yes, in part, yes, I did, but I happen to like my director, so she said, "Hey, we need the space." I'm not even questioning her, but the person that was next door to me, I'm like, this woman saying this is it, but at the same time, I can't be loud, and we don't have like soundproof walls.
Right.
But I had this opinion about this person. So when I asked to come upstairs, and there was space now that people could work from home. And it was such a positive experience to be around other clinicians. And this person, when I got up there, I was like, and the office was next door to her, and she was so helpful. She was so glad to see me. I was like, oh my gosh, and she's
negative story in your head.
I mean, and it really blew my mind, because she would go out of her way to make herself available because a lot of new systems were involved that I wasn't really trained
Right.
on.
You know, you ever heard that phrase, standing B face?
B face?
Bitch
No.
face.
Oh, bitch face. Standing bitch face. Yeah.
I'm trying not to
Okay,
curse so we don't get demonetized.
that could be
Some
one
people-
evaluation of the situation.
like, you know, you'll see somebody you're like, oh, I'm not messing with,
Yeah,
with them.
yeah.
And then as soon as you have a moment to talk to
They're
them,
very
all
nice.
smiles and whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just their unconscious face, and
Right.
it's not intentional. You know
But
what I mean?
but also, you know, yes, absolutely. But then our own evaluation, like, oh, maybe I am, too loud, and I had to like acknowledge that I was. But
yeah, but that wasn't the problem. Right?
But she never really came to me and say, hey, you're kind of loud and
Kinda
stuff,
extra.
extra, and so that might have made a difference. But either way, just for for our conversation, I had an opinion of her based on her evaluation of me and how not that because of her I was sent downstairs to the dungeon, and the dungeon wasn't that bad either. I mean, there was plenty of staff down there.
But you felt a certain way. You were being moved away.
I felt a certain way, but the interesting thing, even though I was sent there, I was right next door to a psychiatrist that we shared clients, so we were always communicating. You know what I mean? And a lot of the staff was glad to see me down there too. So, but anyway, that person turned out to be invaluable to me, and I have no problems asking her for help whenever she's available, and she will literally make herself available, and I'm just really appreciative. But it's the way that there was a distortion of my thinking.
What is that called again? Cognitive distortion.
Cognitive distortion.
Right.
Or another word would be mind traps. Your mind gets trapped in a certain way of looking at things.
Yeah,
so,
and I think like it also, like I have a friend who won't take this certain test that will help her get to the next level in what she's doing, and like kind of fulfill her destiny.
Yeah.
So to speak. And
she doubts herself.
She doubts herself to the point where she won't take the test.
Right.
And I'm like, how can you do that? Like, you have no proof. You are amazing.
Right.
You are good at what you do. I've seen her in action. There is nothing that should be stopping you from at least attempting that test.
But it's like one of, I'm not saying this is what it is for her because I don't know, but it's like one of those things where somebody gives you 10 people, 10 to 10 people, 9 give you all these compliments. The one person gives you negative, and that's the one you remember.
Yep.
So, so some people can have that experience where, within, it becomes the thing,
Right.
And they can throw you off. And so that's sometimes how we I got another example. My high school, I was on the high school swimming team, and I became, my coach, made me a co-captain. Right, and I wasn't like the fastest swimmer, but like he said, you were always there.
Qualities, maybe.
Well, I didn't see that. You know what I'm saying? Because the way the coach, and years later I thought about this, that because I was always there at practice, I always was on time. I did extra swimming and so on, practice on my own, and he was saying that and I felt that I didn't deserve it, and the co-captain was like this amazing swimmer, right? So my co-captain could swim rings around me, so I didn't feel deserving of that. But years later, I'm realizing, but you were good, like you were good enough to be in that position. And it's not like people said, well, again, the evidence. Did my team say, well, why is he co-captain? Why is he? Nobody said anything about that.
But even if they did, I don't think that would be a thing.
But that's my point. But there was nothing. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
For me to even lean on to go, this is what, and it really caused me to feel very. It would trigger my asthma. That's how anxious I became.
Oh wow!
And it would trigger my asthma, and I remember there's a team photo that I'm, got my arms around the shoulder of my co-captain, and we took this picture together. And I remember in that picture, I was out for like a week because I was sick from asthma, and not specifically related to that, but it wasn't like
it didn't help.
It didn't help, right? So that's a distortion right there.
Right. Distortion.
I'm telling all my business on the show, don't you think?
That's okay.
Is
That
it
happened
okay?
a long time ago.
Yeah, but it's happening now. And that's the other thing about, the thought distortions. You think these things are happening right now.
Right.
Like this is really what's happening, or sometimes in mind reading or fortune telling. That's another thought trap. Fortune telling is when you think that the outcome is going to be terrible.
Right.
It's what they call catastrophic thinking. Like no matter what, the way this is going to go down, it is going to be like the ceiling is going to collapse around me no matter what.
Right. Right.
And
Catastrophic thinking.
and catastrophic thinking, and then we don't really say, what if this works out great? Right? You don't entertain it. You entertain like the worst case scenario. So that's fortune telling, and that creates a level of anxiety to them.
I don't know if you do a lot of emailing back and forth, with your superiors or
Okay.
anyone who works for you. But that is to me is like,
What are they thinking? How
like
they interpreting?
you hear them say this, and then you're like, immediately I think they're thinking the worst.
Yeah.
If they ask me a question, why did I do this or whatever? They think I'm an asshole. And I fucked up, and they're gonna.
Why are they typing me?
Right.
But it's gotta be
I
something.
think emails and texting. Is
Yes, where
the
you can really
worst
read into things. Yeah.
in a negative way.
Yes.
So be careful what you read and write. You know what I mean? And don't read too much into it. No pun intended.
Right.
But those things can get really dragged. You could.
And it could debilitate you.
Yeah.
Where you don't send the email, or you read it 400 times before you send it. Send it.
Yeah, or even worse, you see a CC on that.
Oh, and then and you're like, oh my God.
Why would you tell?
Yeah, why are you putting me out there like that?
Exactly.
Right.
But it might have nothing to do with that.
At all.
Right. They're in fact, production I'm CCing you on this thing, whatever it is,
Right.
because maybe you can, whatever, help or
Right.
it's more.
It could be because you are a good member of this team. Like
Right.
we need to be. We're glad that you'll probably want to include you in it.
Right.
That could also be.
But
the
sometimes you'll
reason.
see a CC and why? What's that?
Yeah.
Is there something happening behind the scenes? Are you emailing about me? There's so many that for me is a bad thing because I use body language and a tone.
Yes.
So I kind of extract a little more but email you can't do that, or texting you can't do
Right.
that.
Right.
So you can go into a real toilet bowl of thought when reading or a text or email.
And here's the other thing, right? Is that the voices in our head are also there for us to kind of remember something. So let's say I went to the swimming pool, I dived off the diving board, and when I did it like this, it was a great experience. So now what that says is like, okay, so in the future, I'm going to be able to do it like this, and so you can know that the next time you're going to do it is you've worked it through.
Right.
It's not a negative experience. It's like your thoughts are recording it. So there's a positive point to this, right? Or even danger, right? Like you go to prehistoric times, you know that there's a fight, flight, and freeze, right? So if you see the woolly mammoth coming at you, your thoughts are like, yeah, well, they might kill me. I might be killed as a result. No, this is telling you survival. This is what your inner voice is saying. You have to survive. You need to remove yourself, or you need to stay where you are. So the inner voice is actually a survival. So that's part of our human condition, but these are other ways that human condition, that evolutionary development can get stuck.
Yeah, it's like when anxiety does that, it harkens back to that prehistoric kind of instinct, and I guess self-talk. Correct me if I'm wrong. It does a little bit of the same. It's kind of it was a self-defense.
Oh yeah. That's the whole point. Yeah. Only in the thought distortions we get locked into.
Right.
And it really isn't about survival. But we think in that moment, when you're looking at that CC, right now you're like, wait, what's going on? You're going into a survival mode.
Right. Why you got to email them for? Why are you letting them know our problems?
Exactly. Right. So it's like our natural survival mode gets hijacked by these thought distortions that get lodged into our minds.
Right.
And that's really the whole idea of the self-talk. So one of the things, I don't know if you have information on how to how to work on these so that you can kind of rewire your brain. One of the things that I read was to create rituals for yourself. So like when you get up in the morning, you do the same thing. You listen to your affirmation in the morning. You have your tea. You have your and it's a way of establishing control
Like
of the day.
Pre-game ritual.
Yeah, like a pre-grain. In fact, they talked about, oh my God, Nadal, the tennis player. He has rituals, and they were film. One of the things I saw on YouTube, they were filming what the rituals, because he has a lot of negative self-talk. So the person was speaking on how I don't know if they had a direct conversation, but he drinks from one bottle of water, and then he drinks from another bottle, and he puts the two bottles at an angle facing the court. Like, it's really specific, but somehow that grounds him to not. It helps him take control.
Yeah.
So rituals.
Like that. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, I have my own personal rituals like that. I kind of messed up on one, and I'll tell you briefly what it is. Like, I always, when I leave work, I leave work. Like, I made that a thing because I started noticing years ago that was starting to mess with. I was bringing it home, and I was coming in the door angry. You know what I mean? It was kind of weird. So I learned a long time ago to try to stem that. But yesterday I slipped up. I brought it home with me. Okay. And I was.
Did you forgive yourself?
I forgave myself afterwards. After I realized why I was being a jerk, I was like, oh, I'm carrying over. I got to remember to put that away. Always put that away. Leave it there. And the thing I do, micro pleasures, to take a walk before I get on the bus. I do things to decompress, consciously, because I don't want to get on the bus angry. I don't want to be confined and in my mind and physically.
Yeah, like locked in. Yeah.
So there's like things that I do like to kind of break those thoughts and leave them where they belong. You know what I mean?
And you said something important too that came up in my research, was that exercise is a big part of relieving the anxiety, because all these things create anxiety, what we're talking about, right?
Physical response in your body.
Exactly. So exercise, the affirmations or meditation, I forgot what was another one, just a basic one, because I mentioned rituals before, but anything that reduces your anxiety in a healthy way, that's one way to manage this thing. But also, in therapy, it kind of helps to talk it out with an impartial person that has some training in this pattern of thinking, and can help break down, okay, this is how you're behaving, this is how you're manifesting in your head what's going on. The other one is, when it's called personalization. And that's when everything is, you're to blame for things that you have no control over.
What do you mean? I don't know.
Well, let's say there's an audit at your job. Somebody from the outside has to review your work and so on, and then the office, or like in the mental health, they do that. Outside people, they come and review your work, and then the clinic gets kind of like a low rating, and you think it's because of you.
Something you
now there's 40 people
working
that they scope their work and blah blah blah, but then when you personalize it and you think it's you, and that creates an anxiety too. That's a distortion, right? That's a mind trap that you've made. And so it also happens like with kids, right? When the parents are fighting or divorced, and the kids think it's all because of me, right? But in that regard, that's a child developmental stage. When you're a child, you think the world is about you. It's your world.
Right. That's how yeah.
So it's not really, I guess what I'm saying is not really a thought distortion of when you think of the children, but it is in that moment, and that could easily evolve to in your life that you blame yourself for other things as you become an adult.
Right. It's just a pattern that you hold on to from your trauma.
Right.
Yeah. Wow.
Exactly.
I mean, self-talk. I mean, the one thing before we wind down, I personally want to just add is that and I don't mean this in any kind of way, but nobody's thinking that much about you.
Understood.
When that engagement happened and passed, no one's still thinking about that. So like that's because do you think about that? I've had numerous engagements today between work, home, and
DJing.
I don't think about them. You know what I mean? You know, even if I felt positive or negatively about it, they're in the past. So like, don't, you know, if you can, you know, try to know and believe that they're not thinking about that engagement, and I don't know, not to worry about it. Because that was a thing for me for a while.
Yeah. You know, I do, one of my specialties is addiction. And one of the things that they say in AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, is that you're allowing someone to rent space. You're allowing someone to rent space in your head. Right. So somebody, you know, that's basically the same thing. And they're not thinking about you, but because of whatever that is triggering in you,
you're up at night.
Looking at the ceiling. Exactly. So to be aware when you're allowing someone to rent, space in your head. That's another way of kind of catching yourself.
That's it.
Yep. That's it.
That's it. I'm DJ Mayday.
And I'm Professor S, your therapist to the stars.
And thank you for listening to 6 Train Therapy. Peace.
And we have to comment, subscribe. And what else do we do?
Ring
the bell.
You're going to get this right one day.
One day. Well, you're going to say part of this.
You're looking at me. Go back and forth?
Well, somehow one of us catches the other.
Right. And
you did it.
I jumped in.
Yeah. Don't blame me.
Peace.
Peace.